Here's Brian Williams.
Midterm election night 2014, 10 p.m. on the East Coast. Put it this way, if you're looking for a storyline, our pollsters said at the beginning of this evening they have never quite seen anything like this, as large a collection of races this tight. And we may not have answers on some of the big themes, the big questions of this evening. Let's go quickly to the results we do know and some of the big races we are waiting on. At the top of the list, Iowa Senate, one of our big races to watch. Simply too early to call. But note the distinction between that and this. Polls closed in Virginia at 7 p.m. Democrats thought this was going to be gift-wrapped and done. It is not. The race for Virginia governor, too close to call. More on that after this. Too close to call as well. North Carolina Senate. Senator Hagan trying to get back to the U.S. Senate. Colorado Senate closely watched as Senator Udall wants to repeat as incumbent. Too close. Kansas Senate, another of the big ones at this hour. Too close to call. Will Kansas send an independent to the United States Senate? Georgia Senate, too early to call tonight. In Louisiana, you might as well set your clock for December. This is headed for a runoff. No one has gathered 50%. The Democratic incumbent, Mary Landrieu, will have to wait. A projected winner in Montana for Senate. This is a GOP pickup. They had to flip 6 tonight or at some point before the next Congress to gain control. This was an early result. Mitch McConnell, the GOP leader in the Senate, reelected in Kentucky after what amounted to a bit of a scare, a bit of a run, but he turned it around at the end. New Hampshire Senate. Jeanne Shaheen victorious. She's going back. Scott Brown ran and failed in Massachusetts. He moves to New Hampshire, ran and failed there. She is going back. Tom Cotton, GOP pickup in Arkansas. Mark Pryor, the incumbent, son of Senator David Pryor. A lot of political scions on the board tonight. Here is your Senate at this hour. Republicans who needed 6 to gain control are up a net of 4. Our family gathers here in the studio and across the country. Andrea Mitchell, Chuck Todd. Chuck, you get the first question. Let's go back to the Commonwealth of Virginia. Polls closed 3 hours ago. A lot of Democrats worth their salt were telling you this is going to be wrapped up. It's done. We're back in.
And Republicans, they had a decision to make. National Republicans at the end. They had a little extra money. Were they going to go with Scott Brown in New Hampshire, or were they going to Eddie Gillespie against Mark Warner? And they made the decision to go all in with Scott Brown. New Hampshire, a history in these political wave years of basically swinging back and forth with wherever the nation goes. I think now they're probably looking at these numbers and going, maybe we went the wrong way. The numbers, what is out, it still looks like Mark Warner probably survives. But the irony to him, he's a man that sort of came onto the stage by being a guy that wins in rural Virginia. He's getting crushed in rural Virginia, like a lot of Democrats are in rural America in general. He's going to win on the power of Northern Virginia if he does eke this out. But this, talk about, there's always one monkey wrench. Yeah. This is our monkey wrench of the night.
Now, as they say in television, you have control of the board.
I do.
Show me how the Republican plot line going into tonight has either held true or been shaken a little bit.
What I would say is that everybody is holding serve, okay? It's a good Republican night, but it's not a wave. Why is it not a wave? Well, Jeanne Shaheen is still there. Kay Hagan, our models indicate that she could end up eking out. Of course, the raw vote has Tillis ahead. But when you look here, the Republicans need 4 more. If you assume that Democrats hold serve here in North Carolina, they still feel good about where things are. If you assume that Northern Virginia vote comes over there, now you're looking at Republicans trying to find.
We are interrupting your network coverage to keep you updated on Decision 2014 and the election coverage.
We want to go right to Tom Wolf's election headquarters tonight in York, Pennsylvania, where you see this live picture right now. Look at that. There is his Jeep that has been driven into the victory party tonight, and Tom Wolf about to take the stage. There's his wife, and there he is, the candidate himself, who has been projected by NBC News earlier tonight to be the winner in this race against Tom Corbett, the incumbent.
And we see him right there. This is a businessman who is running for public office for the very first time. He has been holding a double-digit lead over Republican Governor Tom Corbett, who we just heard from in his concession speech. There he is behind the wheel of that Jeep, making the entrance.
The Jeep that we saw in many of his campaign ads early in the primary race. The Jeep was featured prominently in the ads. Tom Wolf, a businessman, as you said, Jacqueline, making his first run for political office after being the former Secretary of Revenue under then Governor Ed Rendell. But his first run at public office and a victory for him tonight. There are his two daughters on the stage awaiting his rise there to the podium as well.
He ran his family business for nearly 3 decades and was doing everything he could, pouring so much money into this campaign. We saw $10 million of his own dollars since the primaries. There he is right there, jubilant, clearly, with the victory tonight.
He said he felt today as though he were going through a final exam, if you will, after doing a lot of hard work and a lot of studying. Here is Tom Wolf speaking to his supporters tonight in York, Pennsylvania.
This is great. Thank you so much. This is so nice to be home. Hey, I love you too. Thank you. I just received a phone call from Governor Corbett. No, wait a minute. And he gave me a very gracious concession speech. And he was so gracious, and I think we owe him a debt of gratitude, and I would like to just express my gratitude to Governor Corbett for his years of public service. Really appreciate what he did. So let's give him a round of applause. Now let's talk about what this campaign is really about. Let's talk about what this campaign, no, wait a minute. Let's talk about what this campaign is really about. And let me start with a few words of thanks. I am so grateful to the voters of Pennsylvania for giving me this chance to serve as governor of Pennsylvania. And I recognize, while I'm grateful for what the great honor they've done me by giving me so many votes, I also recognize the responsibility that had been placed on my shoulders to do great things for Pennsylvania. I know that there's a heavy, fearsome responsibility on me. This is not just about the honor of getting votes, it's about the necessity for doing things for Pennsylvania, right? So I thank the voters of Pennsylvania for giving me this responsibility. I also want to say thank you to the people who have made this campaign a success it is. Everybody here, people who have supported me on the campaign, my campaign staff, they're too numerous to mention, but really have done a phenomenal job of making this campaign about issues and about making Pennsylvania a much better place. I want to run as governor. I have run as governor because I want to make my state better. I think my campaign staff has done a phenomenal job of doing that, and I just want to give them a round of applause. And finally, I'm not mentioning any names but one, and that is my wife, Frances. She is the love of my life and my best friend. And we are about to embark on a new leg of what has been a long journey. We've been married for 39 years. And there is no one in the world I would rather enter this new leg and this new journey with but Frances Wolf. So, Frances, thank you very much. And, of course, our two daughters, Sarah and Katie. Thank you. So let's talk about this campaign. I have talked about 4 things. I've talked about education. We need to reestablish education as a priority in Pennsylvania. This nation was founded on the idea of a broad-based citizenship, and very early on in the Republic, in the history of the Republic, our ancestors realized that education was the key to a strong citizenship, to a strong democracy, to a strong economy, to strong families, and we needed to invest in that. We need to make sure that we resurrect that idea here in Pennsylvania and make sure that education is at the top of the list, not the bottom. And I understand there are different ideas as to how we deliver on the promise of a good education, but we have to invest in it. We have to work together to make sure that we deliver on that promise, and we've got to make it a priority. We've also got to make sure that we fund our education system fairly. And we got to make sure that we raise the money that we use to fund our education system, that we raise it fairly, that we're not burdening, say, property taxpayers. We have got to do a better job. That's the first thing. The second thing, we've got to make sure we are creating good jobs here in Pennsylvania. We need to invest strategically in the things that will make Pennsylvania's economy grow. We want to be a magnet for entrepreneurs. We want to be a dynamo of economic development, and to do that, we have got to strategically invest in Pennsylvania. I pledge to do that. That is what this campaign is about. I think that's going to be part of our future. Third, we have natural resources here. We have to take advantage of those natural resources responsibly, but we've got to take advantage of them. Everyone's talking about gas, but we also have coal. We've got to make sure that coal is relevant in this new age that we're entering into. We need to make sure that we take advantage of our fresh water resources, our timber, our open space. We need to make sure that we take advantage of all those things. We have them here in Pennsylvania, and we can do that. We have a bright economic future if we just simply take advantage of what we have. And finally, we've got to make sure we have a level playing field. This campaign has to be about resurrecting and restoring Penn's promise of an inclusive, open, and level playing field for everybody. Pennsylvania simply cannot be open for just a few favored cronies. We have to be open for business for everybody. This has to be a place that attracts everybody with a good idea, everybody who's willing to work hard, everybody who is willing to take a risk. Pennsylvania has to be top of mind. Those are the things we've got to do. Now, to do that, we're going to have to take some risk. We have got to look forward to a future with optimism. And one of the easiest things to do when we talk about change is to inspire fear. And we have got to move away from that fear of the future, because if we don't, we're going to continue to be consigned to a dead end. So let's say that if we are going to transform Pennsylvania, we've got to go beyond the fear. We've got to get to the point where we actually think we can achieve things, and let's make this Pennsylvania of ours the great place we know it can be. Now, there's one final thing. Pennsylvania is the perfect place to do this. I know there are a lot of modest people here. Pennsylvanians are modest by nature. And we sort of like to look at ourselves and say, yeah, we can't do a whole lot. We're just from Pennsylvania. Well, let me just give you a little history lesson on Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania was founded by William Penn on some of the most noble ideas at the time: freedom of conscience. It was an inclusive place that welcomed a lot of people to Pennsylvania, and because it was inclusive and open and free, because it was that kind of a place, we had a strong economy. We had a strong society. Pennsylvania is where this nation was founded. The Declaration of Independence, Pennsylvania. Our two constitutions, Pennsylvania. The Articles of the Confederation, which of course were drafted in York, Pennsylvania. Just saying. And the 1787 Constitution drafted in Philadelphia. Those principles of the founders were reaffirmed in blood at the Battle of Gettysburg in Pennsylvania. We have two world-class cities. We have great universities. We have a location that is the envy of the world, smack dab in the middle of the richest market in the world. We have open space. We are one of the largest economies in the world. We have so much. We have some of the greatest people in the world, the greatest workforce in the world. This is a place that deserves to have a great future. We need to expect a lot of ourselves. And if we do, we can do great things here. So here's my message. Let's make this the time Let's make this the place, Pennsylvania. Let's us be the people to actually create this bright future we deserve. Let's make this the time. Let's get started. Thank you very much.
All right, Tom Wolf laying out his agenda as he declares victory tonight after receiving a phone call from the incumbent governor, Tom Corbett, reiterating his campaign themes that we heard, education being one of his top priorities in the state, a system that he says must be funded fairly, as well as focusing on job creation here in Pennsylvania.
And Corbett in the last 4 years had been criticized for making cuts to education, public schools in 2011. He had to explain those budget cuts. At the same time, he cut business taxes. To give you an idea of the numbers, with 65% of the precincts reporting Tom Wolf celebrating a victory with 57% to Tom Corbett's 43%. And they had been talking about a double-digit deficit, and right now it's at 14. That margin is 14%.
A commanding lead. And you can count on NBC 10 to continue to bring you comprehensive election results. Of course, we will be back at 11 o'clock with full coverage. For now, we'll send you back to NBC News special election coverage.
Loads as fast as downloads.
So his homework won't be so half-assed.
That is up to him.
Get a Fios Triple Play online for this great price and a $400 Visa prepaid card with a 2-year agreement.
Empire Today is here to save the day with our super 50-50-50 sale. That's 50% off carpet, hardwood, tile, and laminate, 50% off padding and materials, and 50% off installation. Kapow! That's half off your entire project. Get stupendous savings. 50% off carpet, hardwood, tile, and laminate, 50% off padding and materials, and 50% off installation. Schedule now.
800-588-2300 Empire.
Today.
They're hungry for new leadership. They want a reason to be hopeful. Above all, they want some reassurance that people who run the government are actually on their side.
That is Mitch McConnell, who tonight has been returned to the U.S. Senate by the people of Kentucky. Unclear, of course, the Republicans, what percentage of the Senate they will occupy. Will he be reelected as their leader? We are happy to be joined by the other senator from Kentucky, the other Republican senator, and that is Rand Paul. Senator, thank you very much for being with us tonight. Is anything you've seen so far tonight a mandate, you think, for the GOP?
Well, you know, in Kentucky in particular, I think this election was basically a repudiation of the president, but also of Hillary Clinton. The Democrat here ran. She wouldn't admit that she voted for President Obama. She was very specific. I'm a Clinton Democrat. The Clintons, both of them came often to Kentucky. They came often to Arkansas. I think what you're seeing is not much difference between Clinton Democrats and Obama Democrats, but really the cachet of the Clintons isn't what people think it is.
The striking thing about what we just heard from Senator McConnell, to some people watching, he was interpreting the message tonight as a call for new leadership. The case could be made about new leadership on the GOP side of the U.S. Senate. Do you see all of your colleagues willing to line up once again behind a Mitch McConnell-led GOP caucus in the Senate?
Yeah, I do. And the thing is that Senator McConnell's never been the leader of the majority. So if we're a majority, you're going to see whether or not Senator McConnell can lead us to pass legislation. And I frankly think he can, because I've only been in the Senate a short period of time, but I'm convinced the only way you pass legislation, unless you have 60 senators, is that you have to let the minority party have amendments, you have to let them have votes, and you have to let them participate. Harry Reid's philosophy has been no Republican amendments, and he only votes on things that he completely controls, and therefore we've not gotten anything done. I think Senator McConnell will let the Democrats participate if we're in the majority, and I think you'll see bill after bill after bill presented to the president.
Senator, your father, Ron Paul, tonight tweeted, and it's getting a lot of attention, quote, Republican control of the Senate, =, expanded neocon wars in Syria and Iraq, boots on the ground are coming. I realize he is him and you are you, and you don't speak for your dad and vice versa. But what this does speak to is the issue you notably raised in an interview a couple days ago about the GOP brand. If you had a say in this, what would the GOP brand be, regardless of net gain or pickup after this point tonight, going into the next Congress, if they asked you and if you ran the world?
I think the key to our brand is that we need to be a more welcoming party. I tell people we want people with tattoos and without tattoos, with earrings, without earrings, working class, rich, middle class. We need to be more open and more diverse, black, white, brown, and we haven't been. And it's not because we have bad policies. I've never said Republicans have bad policies. I've said Republicans, the perception of who we are isn't good, and that we need to have a better attitude and present a better face to people.
Senator Rand Paul, make no mistake, it is a good time for the Republican Party in the state of Kentucky tonight. Thank you very much for taking time out at the Mitch McConnell victory celebration to join us. Appreciate your time. Chuck Todd, you...
No. I
just saw you gesturing off camera like a point you have to make.
Well, President Obama, listen to this.
Yes?
President Obama just called Tom Cotton, the senator-elect from Arkansas, to congratulate him.
Okay.
This is part of this new strategy. I had heard that they were thinking about ways they would invite this new class of senators, Republicans, to the White House, try to sort things out. I think you're seeing this first attempts at sort of the recalibration of this White House responding to what's likely going to be a Republican Senate.
We have a call. It's Colorado Senate. Gardner, net pickup of one more for the GOP. This is a big moment because it will be said for a long time that a longtime scion of the Democratic Party, Mark Udall, and the people around him misplayed an incumbent campaign for re-election by going hard. The pejorative is pandering for one issue, and that was women voters. Senate has gone down by one Democrat. Republicans needed to flip 6 to get control. They're up 5. Forgive me, former Congressman Joe Scarborough.
Former constituent.
Yes. Better known as the Joe of Morning Joe. Yes. Thank you for joining us.
It's great to be here.
We're off your clock. Sum up what you've seen so far tonight. We haven't had a chance to talk to you yet this evening.
Well, you always call me Congressman.
I do, because I'm a formal guy.
You could not have done that if 20 years ago tonight I hadn't been elected to Congress. Now, think about this. In the 20 years since Republicans took over Congress for the first time in a generation, they've controlled the U.S. House 16 of 20 years. If you count up the years that Democratic presidents have won popular votes in the presidency, 16 of 20 years, a complete flip. Who's controlled the Senate over those 20 years? Republicans for 10 years, Democrats for 10 years. It's unbelievable. Since politics has become such a blood sport over the past 20 years, we've seen a 50-50 nation, and we're seeing it again tonight. That Utah race, you can't talk about how big that is for Republicans
tonight. Hold that thought.
Tonight.
It's all because you left Congress.
Exactly.
Hold that thought. We'll get a break in.
Good.
Joe Scarborough's not going anywhere. We'll be back with our coverage on what is already a very busy midterm election night from New York right after this.
In a race, it's about getting to the finish line. In life, it's how you get there that matters most.
Like when I found out I had a blood clot on my leg, my doctor said that it could travel to my lungs and become an even bigger problem. So he talked to me about Xarelto.
Xarelto is the first oral prescription blood thinner proven to treat and help prevent DVT and PE that doesn't require regular blood monitoring or changes to your diet.
For a prior DVT, I took warfarin, which required routine blood testing and dietary restrictions. Not this time. While I was taking Xarelto, I still had to stop racing, but I didn't have to deal with that blood monitoring routine.
Don't stop taking Xarelto Rivaroxaban unless your doctor tells you to. While taking Xarelto, you may bruise more easily, and it may take longer for bleeding to stop. Xarelto may increase your risk of bleeding if you take certain medicines. Xarelto can cause serious bleeding, and in rare cases may be fatal. Get help right away if you develop unexpected bleeding, unusual bruising, or tingling. If you have had spinal anesthesia while on Xarelto, watch for back pain or any nerve or muscle-related signs or symptoms. Do not take Xarelto if you have an artificial heart valve or abnormal bleeding. Tell your doctor before all planned medical or dental procedures. Before starting Xarelto, tell your doctor about any conditions, such as kidney, liver, or bleeding problems. Xarelto is proven to reduce the risk of DVT and PE, with no regular blood monitoring and no known dietary restrictions.
Treatment with Xarelto was the right move for me.
Ask your doctor about Xarelto today.
Values aren't like fashion. They're permanent. Bedrock things like integrity, experience, compassion. Things change, but what really matters doesn't.
The Associated Press lead of the newswires, as we affectionately used to call them right now, Republicans are closing in on control of the U.S. Senate. Here is our newfangled donut graphic showing just that. Remember, they needed to flip 6. They are up 5. This is the storyline that continues to emerge tonight. We thought it was going to be a good long wait. These are their net pickups. At this point, we should tell you most of our viewers are going to cut away for a little bit to local coverage. We'll be back after a few minutes.
As NBC 10 News follows election results.
We also have reporters on tonight's top stories.
First, breaking now, new video in the search for Carlisha.
We will not stop until we locate this young lady.
I'm in Philadelphia checking with police sources about the new camera angle that spotted her moments before she was forced into a car.
Police say this is the man who allegedly tried using Carlisha's debit card states away. New at 11, I'm in Maryland as officials search for evidence and talk to businesses about the man allegedly carrying her card.
Plus, a group of local teens on the attack randomly beating people walking down the street. Next, the movie script they're allegedly acting out.
And heavy rain, winter temperatures. Our weather's about to change fast. I'm tracking how soon this warm air will break. Count on NBC 10 News next.
How are you sleeping?
Maybe it's time to get to Raymore and Flanigan.
We have the largest selection of mattresses in the Northeast at the guaranteed lowest prices.
Guaranteed?
Guaranteed.
Like this comfy Serta Queen set for only $3.99 with free next day delivery, setup, and old mattress removal.
No money down, interest-free financing.
Don't you think it's time to sleep better?
Make Raymore and Flanigan your mattress destination.
We thought our cable internet was fast.
But our uploads are half the speed of our downloads, so our internet is really half fast.
So half-fast.
Someone did a half-fast job posting our vacation pics.
Stop living with half-fast internet. Only Verizon Fios comes with Speed Match. Uploads as fast as downloads.
So his homework won't be so half-assed.
That is up to him.
Get a Fios Triple Play online for this great price and a $400 Visa prepaid card with a 2-year agreement.
Cocoa or eggnog, toasty or frosty, exactly the way you want it. Until boom, it's bedtime. Your mattress is a battleground of thwarted desire. Enter the Sleep Number bed. Right now, save $400 on the C4 mattress set. He's the softie. His Sleep Number setting is 35. You're the rock at 60. Silent night, not so silent? Sleep Number's even got an adjustment for that. Give the gift of amazing sleep, only at a Sleep Number store, where you'll find our lowest price ever on the C4 Queen mattress, just $1499.98. No better sleep with Sleep Number.
What?
With Encore, everyone's in tune for dinner.
For tasting more, it's Encore.
NBC 10 is keeping you updated on Decision 2014 election coverage.
And an historic defeat tonight in the race for Pennsylvania governor. Democrat businessman Tom Wolf upsetting Republican incumbent Tom Corbett. Both candidates spoke earlier at their respective headquarters.
I am so grateful to the voters of Pennsylvania for giving me this chance to serve as governor of Pennsylvania.
Tom Wolf there. Let's go right to NBC 10's Luann Kahn, who's live at Wolf election night headquarters in his hometown of York. Tonight, Luann.
Tom Wolf, the governor-elect, now just making his way out of the Utz Arena along with 1,000 people who are celebrating here and still celebrating victory. A very interesting speech. He first said how gracious Governor Corbett was and his concession, asked the crowd to applaud. He said this state is going to have to take risks and move away from fear, and if not, the state is going to be consigned to a dead end. An inspiring speech where he laid out what he's going to do next. Live in York, Luann Kahn, NBC 10 News.
And we'll have the very latest at 11 o'clock.
We'll see you then. Full coverage coming your way on NBC 10 News and on NBC10.com.
Decision 2014 election night continues. Here's Brian Williams.
We are back. As we keep saying, a lot we don't know, but some plot lines are emerging the more results we get in. We're back with our family at the table. Just happens to be star-shaped. Joe Scarborough's with us, our senior political analyst, working a jump shift for him. Joe, I heard you this morning, and if I'm not synopsizing right, correct me. I believe you were saying that people were making too much of the projected Republican gains, that a lot of it was some pretty safe territory. How do you think the Republicans have performed tonight versus expectations, as they say about mutual funds?
Well, as Chuck's been saying tonight, a win tonight is the Republican Party holding serve. This has been a fight, for the most part, in red state America. 6 years in, which historically is always a disaster for the party that's in power. That said, I think even the Republican Party's toughest critics would say a win in Colorado and a win in Iowa may be holding serve, but, you went up 40-love and then aced them on the last shot. Pretty big win in Colorado. If they follow in Iowa, this is actually the Republican Party getting out of the Deep South with some victories.
If you're the head of the Democratic Party and you're trying to do a strength and damage assessment of what you've always considered that blue wall, that firewall, what kind of shape is it in tonight?
If I'm running the Democratic Party and if I'm running the Republican Party, what I'm going to be looking at over the next 2 weeks is one thing, and that's vote turnout. Why did Florida go the way it went? Why did you have some Democratic congressmen go down in that state? What worked in Colorado? Who was pulling their base out? Do we have the Republican Party doing in 2014 what Ken Mehlman did in 2004 and what David Axelrod and the Democrats did so well in 8 and 12? That's really the question going into 16.
Chuck Todd, House of Representatives, go to it, because it's going to be an undercovered story tonight.
Absolutely, and this is where you see the Republicans are having a really good night. We're projecting 246 seats. If they hit that number, 246 seats in the House of Representatives, it'll be the most Republicans in the House of Representatives since World War II. If they get one more, and there's a good chance they get to 247 or above, most Republicans serving in the House of Representatives since 1928.
Wow.
What this does is it basically is a firewall for the next presidential. Let's say Hillary Clinton is the nominee and she has a resounding victory of some sort. It is really hard to imagine how Democrats could win the House, even in some sort of Hillary Clinton landslide. So this really secures the House Republican majority for the rest of this decade. Not until 2022, I think, at the earliest, will you see Democrats have a chance at winning the House.
Folks watching at home tonight, 435 House seats. We were told going into tonight maybe 50 were competitive. Is it all because of gerrymandering and salamanders and lizards and districts that are drawn in crazy shapes, that these are now safe seats?
A lot of it is. And really, people ask, what would be the one thing I would do to reform Washington? It would be to try to figure out a way to get rid of the gerrymandering. Once it started going to computer modeling, it really, at that point, you were able to get all of the Democrats out of your district if you were a Republican, and vice versa. The turnover rate in the House of Representatives, I think, somewhat lower than the turnover rate in the old Soviet Politburo. There's a problem there.
Andrea, the question we are honestly labeling what people hate about the media, because we asked this question before the ink is dry on the results. Anything, anyone emerging tonight vis-a-vis 2016?
Rand Paul in his interview with you, talking about getting along, working issues, reaching out to people with tattoos and earrings and people who don't look like normal Republicans.
While taking a swing
at Hillary Clinton, blaming Hillary Clinton for Allison Grimes losing in Kentucky. It's really hard.
That was a little bit of a reach there.
As I said, so many questions, so little time. Tamron Hall has been tracking what we've been calling all night a a sour electorate. And I think, Tamron, the raw numbers coming into you are kind of justifying the use of that term.
Absolutely, Brian. You said so many questions, so little time. But there's one big question I think we definitely want to get to because we've asked it for years. Do you think the country is headed in the right direction, or are we headed in the wrong direction? Highlighting 2010 here, 61% of voters at that time said we were headed in the wrong direction. 2014, an uptick, 65% now say that. Now, one thing is clear, as you've talked about with the panel, the growing dissatisfaction with Congress and also the president. Today, only 44% of voters approve of the job the president is doing. That is down 10 points from 2012, and that brings us right back to where the number was, Brian, in 2010, 44%. And it is not a pretty picture for Congress either. In fact, overall, 78% disapprove of the job that's taking place on Capitol Hill with those lawmakers. And it is one thing everyone seems to agree on, and we mean everyone, Brian. 75% when you look at Democrats, 78% Republicans, 83% of independents disapprove of Congress. Back to you, Brian.
Talk about the one thing all Americans can agree on. Tamron, thanks very much. We every election night, we like to check in on the gentleman who is my equivalent at our sister network, Telemundo. My friend Jose Diaz-Balart is standing by at their election headquarters. And, Jose, what is your lead story as you look at the results that are in so far tonight?
Brian, good evening. It's good to see you. You know, one of the stories, no doubt, is Colorado and the importance of the Latino turnout. You know, in 2012, President Obama received 87% of the Colorado Latino vote. It looks as though Mark Udall may have gotten 71% of the Latino vote. Why the drop? Well, interesting. 3 senators, Mark Pryor, Kay Hagan, and Mary Landrieu, asked the president to delay his decision to have some executive orders mitigating immigration, deportations. The president decided, even after he announced that he was going to carry these out by the end of the summer, to delay after the elections. Well, maybe that policy wasn't good politics because clearly the Latino turnout may have been affected by the president's decision to delay immigration executive authority until after the elections, as he was asked by Democratic senators. Colorado, a big race. The Latino population there is huge. The voting population there is huge. And that's the story we're looking at tonight, Brian, among many others.
Jose, appreciate it, as we do always. Good luck with your coverage later on tonight as we both go about covering the same storyline. We have another update from the state of Georgia. Let's see if that's ready to put on the screen. This is the Purdue Nunn race. Michelle Nunn there on the right, daughter of former Senator Sam Nunn, by the way. What we're saying about this is that it appears Purdue will crack the 50% barrier, this while being a race to watch. Still too early to call, but we want to look at, by the way, how the counties and voting districts shape out, because the color map of this country, blue versus red, we underrepresent, Chuck, the vast, I think, purple population, which we haven't gotten our arms around, but so interesting, urban, exurban, suburban, to look at it tonight.
No, and you really can just do this by geography sometimes. And this was, particularly when you look at where this battleground for the Senate was, it was taking place in more rural America, and that is someplace where the president is enormously unpopular. But let's, you know, we still got Kansas out, we know Iowa. Republicans are going to win the Senate. Republicans are going to win control of the Senate. I think we should stop beating around the bush. You start looking at these numbers. We know what's going on in Georgia. North Carolina is looking awfully close. But now all they have to do when you start looking at the numbers, they got to win just one of North Carolina, Iowa, Alaska, or Louisiana. Yeah. They're going to win more than one of those tonight. I'm pretty confident of that. And Kansas right now, Roberts is hanging on. If they can afford to lose Roberts and probably find 2 in here. So the Republicans are going to win the Senate. We'll formally figure out exactly what time we do the math, but let's not beat around the bush here.
Joe, if you were forced to resign from Morning Joe, no one's saying that's a good idea. And
well,
and
some would
you
say
were going to. Oh, we have a call. I'll finish that question in just a moment. We have a call out of Wisconsin. Let's interrupt ourselves. Governor, look at that. Scott Walker going back, the incumbent. Wow. Long and sweaty night for them. But Scott Walker, who has gotten a lot of national publicity for a governor of Wisconsin, is continuing. And there again, red-blue breakdown in the state of Wisconsin, with the exception of 2 counties yet to report. So if you were hired tomorrow to advise the President of the United States, Joe, what's your advice?
Well, whoever's talking to him tonight is doing a very good job. The fact that he's already called Tom Cotton in Arkansas is more than he did to a lot of senior Democratic senators. I will tell you, we've heard it. Chuck's heard it. Andrew's heard it. You've heard it. I've heard it. I heard it the first 4 years of Barack Obama's presidency. There were Democratic senators that said they had never been invited to the White House. They'd never talked to him on the phone. The fact tonight that he's already picked up the phone and called a very conservative guy, a Republican in Arkansas, I think that's a very good sign. You also have Kevin McCarthy, the majority whip, talking about, trying to work more with Democrats. You have the same thing Mitch McConnell tonight. Who knows? Let us hope peace breaks out.
A crisis of cooperation could start starting here tonight.
Let me throw out one quick name here. Harry Reid.
Okay.
I don't think, I won't be surprised if Democrats keep Harry Reid.
Oh, boy.
I think this is going to be an open question inside the Senate Democratic caucus.
As no less a character than Ted Kennedy learned in years past. Yes. If you're going to mount a campaign, you got to make sure you can win it. Joe Scarborough, thank you.
Thank you,
It's
Brian.
always a pleasure. Our coverage will continue right after this.
How much money do you have in your pocket right now?
I have $40.
21?
Could something that small make an impact on something as big as your retirement?
I don't think so.
Well, if you start putting that money towards your retirement every week and let it grow over time for 20, 30 years, that retirement challenge might not seem so big after all.
I've had it with my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis. The frustration, covering up. So I talked with my doctor. He prescribed Enbrel. Enbrel is clinically proven to provide clearer skin. Many people saw 75% clearance in 3 months, and Enbrel helped keep skin clearer at 6 months.
Enbrel may lower your ability to fight infections. Serious, sometimes fatal events including infections, tuberculosis, lymphoma, other cancers, nervous system and blood disorders, and allergic reactions have occurred. Before starting Enbrel, your doctor should test you for tuberculosis and discuss whether you've been to a region where certain fungal infections are common. You should not start Enbrel if you have an infection like the flu. Tell your doctor if you're prone to infections, have cuts or sores, have had hepatitis B, have been treated for heart failure, or if you have symptoms such as persistent fever, bruising, bleeding, or paleness.
Finally, clearer skin for more than a few days, weeks, or months. Enbrel works for me. Ask your dermatologist if you can have clearer skin with Enbrel.
Tonight on Fallon, the Today Show, Savannah Guthrie and Matt Lauer play pop quiz.
So close.
Then on Friday, for the first time, Jay Leno returns to the show. Then Seth has Martin Short. New Tonight Show, followed by Late Night, here on NBC.
How can Pop Chips have the great taste of a fried potato chip, but with half of the fat?
It's magic.
It's not magic. It's scientific. The potatoes are popped using air instead of oil.
Don't give away the trick. That's the first rule of being a magician.
Pop Chips. All the flavor, half the fat.
It's magic.
It's Raymore and Flanagan's Veterans Day sale. Saluting you with savings, putting everything in the showroom on sale. Furniture and mattresses for every style. Living rooms, bedrooms, dining rooms. Mattresses at guaranteed lowest prices. All reduced, and you pay 0% financing for an incredible 60 months.
Great sales, great deals.
Everything's on sale. The Veterans Day sale. Going on now at Raymore and Flanagan.
Look out. Now there's even more of the amazing cinnamon taste you love on Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Crave those crazy squares even more.
Ring ring?
Progresso.
It's okay that your soup tastes like my homemade.
It's our slow-simmered vegetables and tender white meat chicken.
Apology accepted. I'm watching you, soup people.
Make it Progresso or make it yourself.
Today we're going to prove that Pop Chips has half the fat of a fried chip by sawing my wife into 2 equal parts.
I'm not getting into that box ad.
But how are we going to explain that Pop Chips has all the flavor of a fried chip with half the fat?
You already did. Twice. Pop Chips. All the flavor, half the fat.
Welcome back. This is midterm election night 2014. At the top of the hour, I quoted our pollsters who are legitimately the best in the business, saying they had never seen quite this collection, this amalgam of close races, anything like this in their history. Here's one of the reasons why. A couple of these races we're about to show you, people thought these would be baked so long, like that one where the polls closed 7 o'clock Eastern time. Eddie Gillespie, as his friends know him, versus Mark Warner, the Democratic incumbent senator in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Too close to call. North Carolina Senate, Kay Hagan trying to get back in the U.S. Senate. Too close to call. Iowa Senate, too early to call. Could be a hot time in the state of Iowa tonight as Joni Ernst tries to defeat Bruce Braley. And Kansas Senate, too close. The veteran Pat Roberts, who had Bob Dole at a lot of his events, going up against Greg Orman, trying to go to the U.S. Senate as an independent. Let's bring in two guys. One is a former senior advisor to the president. The other has a Pulitzer Prize among his many laurels. David Axelrod and Eugene Robinson. Gentlemen, welcome to you. Eugene, you've been a columnist for a good many years, a journalist for more than that. What's your lead story? How big a typeface? What's the column on what has happened so far?
I think my lead story is Republicans take the Senate. I think we're going to see that happen. And I think my drop deck, my next head.
I love when you use terms of our drop deck. Yeah,
my
that's a
drop
great
deck
one.
is, cooperation could possibly break out. If you heard Mitch McConnell's speech, it was open, expansive, generous, and he explicitly said, we're going to get things done. We're going to move forward on the things we agree on. And if that happens, that's got to be for the good. I mean, there are issues like corporate tax reform, pieces of immigration, plenty of issues on which the parties have the same position, essentially. I mean, or they certainly could reach common ground. So maybe that's going to be the template.
David, for better or worse, you are always called on to defend your former boss. And let's go to the point Joe Scarborough made. President Obama has said, look, I'm not LBJ. I'm nothing close. We're different people. I'm not as elbow twisty and as schmoozy. But as Joe said, you got a rookie Republican senator-elect tonight. Talk about political scions who has defeated a prior in Arkansas. President picked up the phone and called him. Could this be a sign of things to come?
Look, I think one of the things that the attention will be on the president, and I understand that, but there's a great deal of jaundice about politics generally, about Washington generally. The Republicans are feeling it. Their numbers are terrible. Mitch McConnell and the Republicans are heading into an election in 2016 where their map is just as hostile in terms of the territory on which they're going to have to run as it is, as it was to the president in this election. And you've got a presidential election. They understand they have to get some things done. And I was encouraged by Senator McConnell's remarks tonight. If I were the president, I would test him and take him up on it very quickly and see what there is that they can do together. The country's clearly hungry for that.
The country is clearly hungry. It's hard to manifest that. You're voting for a local and state election. If you want to send a message, tough to do with your vote.
Yeah, it is tough to do. We have to kind of distinguish. This wasn't a wave election. The Republicans didn't sweep the board. So it wasn't a totally nationalized election. Some of these races were local, and some of them really hinged on local issues, local bad campaigns. Why is Mark Warner in such trouble in Virginia?
Why is
I think you have to look at how that campaign was run. It's a big surprise. That's one of the bigger surprises tonight to me.
I think we're bordering on calling this a wave election. You have an historic number in the House of Representatives.
You throwing down against
No. And I
respect. You're saying what?
I think we're close to it. Scott Walker wins. Rick Scott wins in 2 swing states. If Tom Tillis pulls off the victory in North Carolina, 3 of the 4 presidential battleground states where the head Senate races are going to go. It's basic. It feels very much the way Democrats won 2006. the close races went in one direction.
I will say this. Look,
it's pretty close.
It's not good news from the standpoint of the president of the Democratic Party. But I lived through real wave elections. In '94, for example, not one Republican senator, governor, or congressman lost in the entire country. This isn't what happened tonight. But there's plenty of jaundice. There's no doubt about it.
I get to call time, gentlemen. Thank you both. Another break. At this time of night, we ask, what have we learned? We've got a really smart, experienced guy to take that question when we come back. Tom Brokaw joins us right after this.
We all have to plan for retirement. But when we start worrying about tomorrow, we miss out on what matters today. At AXA, we offer advice and help you break down your retirement goals into small, manageable steps. Because when you plan for tomorrow, it helps you live for today. Can we help you take a small step? For advice, retirement, and life insurance, connect with AXA.
You owned your car for 4 years. You named it Brad. You loved Brad. And then you totaled him. You two had been through everything together. 2 boyfriends, 3 jobs. You're like, nothing can replace Brad. Then Liberty Mutual calls. And you break into your happy dance.
If you sign up for Better Car Replacement, we'll pay for a car that's a model year newer with 15,000 fewer miles than your old one. See car insurance in a whole new light. Liberty Mutual Insurance.
I make a lot of purchases for my business, and I get a lot in return with Ink Plus from Chase. Like 50,000 bonus points when I spend $5,000 in the first 3 months after I open my account.
And I earn 5 times the rewards on internet phone services and at office supply stores.
With Ink Plus, I can choose how to redeem my points. Travel, gift cards, even cash back. And my rewards points won't expire.
So you can make owning a business even more rewarding. Ink from Chase, so you can.
We are back, and we're looking for the kind of story of tonight. We have various plot lines. We have various stories that are yet to be written. We've been joined by Tom Brokaw. You have presided over a lot of these. What do you think the voters have said? What state do you think your country is in? What have we learned so far tonight?
Well, they're plainly unhappy. I don't think that this was a big ideological election. As much as it was, we want to change the team. We want to find somebody who can get things done. Will they fall out of love with Republicans that they've elected to office? That all depends on how the Republicans take control of the Senate now and the Congress. They're going to be looking at 2016. No one wants to go into the presidential election with the attitude that the country had going into this election. And to change all of that, they're going to have to get some things done. They're going to have to reach across the lines a little bit. When Portland and even McConnell and the others are talking about now we have a chance for tax reform and so on, that means the Democrats are going to have a place at the table as well. So I think we've got a long way to go, and it's very hard at this point to conjecture about how they may behave. Does McConnell back away from repealing, for example, affordable care? Will we not hear about Benghazi again for a while? And all the other issues that have been coming up. It was not so long ago, a lot of Republicans say, impeach the president. Do they want to go there? That's not the message that the country has sent.
Cuts both ways. White House has to decide how it behaves. We have a big call right now, and we're going to go from this over to Chuck Todd. Tell us where this leaves the map. There you go. Georgia Senate, Perdue, the projected winner. This was a long, hot night in the Georgia Senate race. Turning away Michelle Nunn, daughter of veteran senator from Georgia, Sam Nunn. Chuck Todd, what does this do to the map and the GOP storyline from tonight?
Well, here's what it does. They need 2. Here's what's left, uncalled. Virginia, North Carolina, Kansas, Alaska, Iowa, Louisiana. You look at here, Republicans are leading in North Carolina. That right now, Republicans are leading in Kansas. If they just hold those 2 leads, they get their 51. Polls indicated they were leading in Iowa. This is still going to be a runoff race, but boy, the fact that Mary Landrieu finished second against 2 Republicans, that's not looking good. You look at the size of this potential Republican majority, they could get to 53, and if they pull off Alaska, they could get to 54. Right now, Mark Warner is hanging on. He just pulled into the lead there in some final votes there. 54 is a pretty big number. They did not expect it. You talk to any of the Republican strategists, and they thought their best night was 52 or 53. They get to 54. That insulates them a little bit for potentially 2016, which is a terrible map for them in holding the Senate.
We've been on the air just under an hour. Some of this storyline has changed live before our eyes since we came on the air. And Andrea Mitchell, part of this is the storyline the Republicans had hoped for. As our last guests appropriately point out, we'll be at this in 2 years again. The map goes against them.
They've got 23 seats in play at stake in 2 years. And the Democrats only have 10. So the Democrats have very, less to protect, less worry. It's the exact flip of what we're seeing tonight. And this was a very hard map for the Democrats in red rural states. And what you've just seen in Georgia and what may still take place in Kansas and Iowa, we don't know yet. The surprise, we saw it coming, but the real surprise is in a purple state in Colorado. That was a really big defeat for the Democrats.
Let's put a period at the end of this sentence and put up our Senate balance graphic. We started tonight not knowing how this would end up. The Republicans, remember, needed to flip 6. We have them officially at 5. It could be a long time before we fill in the gaps and know exactly the math, their path to turning Mitch McConnell into the presumed majority leader from minority leader. A note to our viewers as we prepare to get off the air and let you go to your late live local news on the East Coast especially. We're going to keep at it here in the studio for the next hour on NBCnews.com. A hour-long examination on the web where we get to talk further about all of this, and we'll have the live calls continuing. So for our team here in New York and elsewhere, Brian Williams, NBC News, thank you for being with us.
Breaking next, new video just released of Carlisha, moments before she was dragged away by her kidnappers.
Also breaking, new video of the man police say was using her debit card.
Plus, I'm watching how soon heavy rain and winter weather will return. Count on NBC 10 News next.
It's Empire Today's biggest sale, the 50-50-50 sale. 50% off carpet and flooring, 50% off padding and materials, and 50% off installation. That's right, half off your entire project. You can save thousands. Empire's 50-50-50 sale won't last long. Don't miss 50% off carpet and flooring, 50% off padding and materials, and 50% off installation.
800-588-2300 Empire.
Today, Mia Hamm has always been driven to be the best, making her one of the most winning soccer players. Mazda has always been driven to be our best. It's why we engineer highly acclaimed cars like the Mazda 6. J.D. Power has awarded the Mazda 6 the highest-ranked vehicle appeal among midsize cars. Skyactiv technology gives it the winning combination of best-in-class fuel efficiency and uncompromised performance. The 2015 Mazda 6. What do you drive?
So.
We begin with breaking news. The search for the woman kidnapped off the street. She's now missing for more than 48 hours.
Tonight, we obtained 2 new surveillance videos in the search for Carlisha Freeland Gaither. The first you see here shows a different angle of Carlisha as she is snatched off of Germantown Street Sunday night.
A second surveillance camera provides us with this, our clearest view yet of a man police are calling a person of interest in this case. This video inside a gas station Monday morning in Aberdeen, Maryland, where police say Carlisha's ATM card was used just moments before this video was taken.
We have team coverage tonight. We begin with NBC 10's George Spencer live in Aberdeen, Maryland, with a closer look at that new video from inside a gas station there. George.
Jacqueline, only NBC 10 was at this Shell gas station as federal agents zeroed in on its 17 cameras and on the beverage cooler inside. The brand new surveillance video, which they collected here only at about 8:30 tonight, shows the person of interest walking in through the shop's side door. He appears to be wearing the very same hoodie we saw him wearing in photos from the PNC Bank, where he allegedly used Carlisha's debit card. The man heads straight for the back of the store and the bottled water case. He grabs a drink, pays, and then leaves calmly, but not before giving us a good look at him. This store is in the same shopping plaza as that PNC Bank, and we watched tonight as investigators collected evidence here that the man may have left behind. We'll have more on that ahead, but for now we'll go to my colleague Nefertiti Jacquez, who's live in Philadelphia.
George, we also have newly released video where you can see the exact moment when the suspect approached Carlisha before she was forced into this car. The new camera angle captures the man walking up to the 22-year-old victim, and when she tries to get around him, that's when he lunges at her and grabs her before the two disappear off camera. You remember that in the first video we saw of the crime yesterday, she was put in the car and then knocked out the back passenger side window of the gray Ford Taurus. Police say the hunt is now on for the suspect. That is the very latest from Northwest Detectives. Nefertiti Jacquez, NBC 10 News.
All right, Nefertiti, and we'll have much more on the search for Carlisha, including her parents' plea.
But first, history is made in Pennsylvania.
Election night 2014. The people have spoken.
I am so grateful to the voters of Pennsylvania for giving me this chance to serve as governor.
A new era in Pennsylvania. Tom Wolf wins. So does New Jersey's Cory Booker and Delaware's Chris Coons.
Big story coverage right now on tonight's breaking news. The search for Carlisha. Police just released 2 new videos hoping to break the case. Good evening, I'm Jacqueline London.
And I'm Jim Rosenfield. An historic election. Tonight there is a new governor-elect in Pennsylvania.
Tom Wolf spent about $10 million of his own money for ads. Here's a look at the votes. So far, not all of the precincts have been reported, but Tom Wolf has about a 300,000 vote lead. 56% of the vote Wolf has taken. And we have team coverage of the governor's race. Keith Jones is with Governor Corbett's camp in Pittsburgh.
But we begin with NBC 10's Luann Kahn, who is with the governor-elect Tom Wolf in York, Pennsylvania. Luann.